Welcome back to reading The Vortex, and we're up to part 1, Your Vortex. And this book is channeled by Esther Hicks and channeling Abraham. And we are reading Your Relationship with Your Parents. Of course, your physical parents are of great significance to you, for if it were not for their relationship with each other, you would not exist in your current physical form. But there are many misunderstandings, or what we are calling flawed premises, around your relationship with your parents. From your non-physical vantage point, you understood that your physical parents would be more important avenue into physical experience, and that you would be born into a stable enough environment to be able to get your physical footing. You knew that your parents or others like them would receive you and introduce you to your new environment. You knew there would be a time of acclimation, and you felt enormous appreciation for those who would welcome you. You understood that your parents, who are already acclimated to their physical environment, would help you in finding food, shelter, and physical stability. But you did not intend to look to them to determine your life's purpose for you, or for guidance about the correctness or effectiveness of your physical journey. In fact, from your non-physical perspective before your birth, you knew that your personal guidance would be more intact, and therefore more effective, on the day that you were born than would be the guidance of the adults who would greet you. In other words, when you were first born into your physical body, the relationship between you and you, your non-physical inner being, was such that you were nearly still that one pure positive energy. But in those very first new days in your physical body, you began to experience a gradual shift in your own consciousness, just as you knew you would, as you began to garner your personal perspective from your physical vantage point or your new earth environment. And in that process, your energy or consciousness became 2 instead of 1. In other words, as the new infant in your mother's arms, you had 2 vibrational vantage points active within you. And so you then began to feel emotions. Because remember, your emotions are the connection between physical you and non-physical you. Since you just came from an environment where you had absolute knowledge of the well-being of the universe and of planet Earth and of all that is, when your mother held you and worried about you, you felt uncomfortable. When your parents felt overwhelmed with their lives, you felt uncomfortable. When they gazed at you in pure love and appreciation, you felt the alignment of their beings and you felt comfort. But even in your infancy, you remembered that it was not their job to shine their alignment on you. You remembered even then, even before you could talk or walk, that it was not their job to provide a haven of comfort and aligned energy for you. You knew it was your job, and you knew you would figure it out. And meanwhile, you were able to easily withdraw back into the alignment of your oneness, and so you slept, often. You came into this physical environment knowing that you would be surrounded by a contrast right from the beginning, and that this contrast would provide the nucleus of the creation of your own life experience. You understood that just by being present in this earth environment, you would automatically find your own preferences, and that both wanted and unwanted aspects would be of benefit to you. And most of all, you knew that you would be the one, the only one, who would or could choose for you. However, by the time you came into the life experience of your parents, they had, in most cases, all but forgotten that about you. Which brings us to another flawed premise. And flawed premise number 2 we'll look at in the next video. But let's look at this here. The reason or the only expectation that you've ever had from your parents before arriving here was that they would help you gain a footing quickly in a physical world, because you had no experience of that as a non-physical being. So the only thing that you really expected and hoped for is food, shelter, and the physical stability. However, you didn't expect nor importantly intend, that they would help you with any other form of guidance. And it says, in fact, from your non-physical perspective, you knew that your personal guidance would be more intact on the day that you were born and for many days later, then it would be of the guidance who were there to greet you, due to the fact that, of course, they had been separated from their non-physical guidance for much longer. So that is where your relationship started. You came, you had a strong connection. And I think we see this in children anyway. Often when you hear the stories of reincarnation, or we have all those stories about where there's young children up to maybe even the age of 7 who can really remember a past life, and maybe their absolute previous past life, down to then a name, a street, where they lived, what they did for a job, and it can often be traced back to a real person who, can find out that they were deceased, and they, you remember where they lived, their house, etc. And that is because when you are born, you are so much closer to the non-physical than you might be by the time you are now watching this. And that would be true of your parents as well. And we're here to try to maintain that relationship that we've always had with non-physical. And of course, that's what this book is ultimately going to be about. But we tend to feel this about all relationships now, that they are here for support and comfort in all aspects, when in reality, all your relationships, starting with your parents onwards, are not about that at all. They're not about whether they are giving you comfort or whether they are making you uncomfortable. That's all your work. That's all your part of your experience of the expansion, the exploration. You're here to see how to play in this physical environment. And the other people are just the players here along with you. They are not playing on your behalf. They are not setting the scene on your behalf. They have no obligation to do so, and you didn't intend for them to do so. And since we often feel that because our parents were how they were, that they have therefore set up our life in a particular way, and so we are a victim of those circumstances, of that level of discomfort or comfort or whatever it might be, we tend to have put on them an intention that we never had, that all we intended was they would give us a footing in the physical world, and that is all. They are like just a bus to come and drop us off in the physical reality, orient us a little, and then it's all up to us. And that's exactly how we wanted it. But we forget that. So I'll see you back here for flawed premise number 2.